Rinaldo nos va a hablar del proyecto que tiene expuesto en Banquete. Y bueno, solo deciros que en su formación les estudió informática, teoría de las comunicaciones y luego hizo un máster de Bellas Artes por la Universidad Estatal de San Francisco. Sus instalaciones multimedia estudian la intersección entre sistemas biológicos y sistemas tecnológicos, integrando seres vivos con dispositivos mecánicos e informacionales. Augmented Fish Reality, que es la obra que presenta en Banquete, es un ejemplo de ello.
Thank you very much. I'd actually like to begin by thanking Karen Olenschlager and Luis Rico for bringing us all together today, Sonia Diaz-Thale, and I'd like to thank the Media Lab of Madrid. I would also like to thank the European Union for having a vision to support the arts at the intersection of technology. It's particularly exciting for me as well to come together with so many important scientists, many of these scientists that have inspired my own work. I speak specifically of Lynn Margolis and Dorian Sagan. It's particularly exciting for me to be able to present my work here for that reason. What I'd like to show you today is some video of some works that I've been working on for the last 10 years or so that I think really do get at the issues of the evolution of communication, evolution itself, but also really try to get at the issue of looking at things that, generally speaking, don't really have a voice in a rather human-centered culture that we are. So the very first work that I'm going to show you, some of which you've seen already in the show, but perhaps not, so I'll show you some footage, is a work that uses a couple of Siamese fighting fish and tries to give these Siamese fighting fish the ability to move their robotic bowls under their own control. I was very interested to learn about Siamese fighting fish and learn that indeed they have a very rich interaction, social interaction. Additionally, while I was doing the research on the fish, Dr. Cullen Brown at the University of Edinburgh did some quite extensive international research and found that in fact fish are much smarter than we formerly thought. They have long-term memories, they have very rich social interactions with each other. In fact, the phrase they use is that fish will actually form a Machiavellian plot against another fish in a group which they don't like. And this really intrigued me, and it really pushed me further to develop this work. So this very first piece is called Augmented Fish Reality. I got the idea when walking into a fish store and finding a Siamese fighting fish in a glass about this size. And I thought, if I was this fish, what would I want to do? Well, clearly, I would want to move my tank around and explore my world beyond the limits of the glass, and this is how I got the idea. So this is Augmented Fish Reality.
Augmented Fish Reality is an interactive installation of 5 rolling robotic fishbowl sculptures designed to explore interspecies and transspecies communication. These sculptures allow the Siamese fighting fish to use intelligent hardware and software to move their robotic bowls under their control. As with many fish, Siamese fighting fish have eyes which allow them to see for great distances outside the water. Fish have the ability to mentally map their environments when finding food and avoiding predators. This design uses 4 infrared sensors around each bowl, which allow the fish to move forward and back and turn the bowls. By swimming to the edge of the bowl, the fish activate motorized wheels that move the robots in that direction. Humans interact with the work simply by entering the environment. These bowls consist of a living environment of peace lilies which help to absorb the waste stream from the fish. The bowls and robots are designed to allow the fish to get within 1/4 inch of each other for visual communication between the fish, both male and female. Small lipstick video cameras mounted on 45-degree angles under 2 of the bowls image the interior of the fish bowls as well as humans in this environment, and these images are intercepted with video transceivers and projected back to the walls of the installation and give human participants a sense of both looking into the interior of the tanks and feeling as if they are immersed in the fish bowls.
This next work I'd like to show you is a work called Spider House. And Spider House is a piece designed to allow humans to some extent to commune with the common house spider. The common house spider is quite interesting to me because there's almost no example of the spider in the wild, or there are very few examples. This is really an urban spider in every sense of the word. Also, I'm quite interested that humans, for the most part, find spiders quite, they're afraid of spiders. Spiders are in fact immensely beneficial to humankind, primarily because they eat a lot of the more harmful insects to us, or that would bite us perhaps. My original intent with this work was actually to amplify the sound of the spider walking on the web, because I had researched and read that in fact a spider will sometimes understand what kind of prey they have in the web by the kind of vibrations that come out of the web. And sometimes they'll in fact cut the web to let an insect that's not to their liking go. It turned out that that was much more complex than I thought, namely because everybody walking in the room was much louder than the spider walking on the web. Since then I've been able to figure out a way to do this, but this is the next version of the piece that is not quite done. In the meantime, what I've done is create a kind of amplification environment for a common house spider, and this is Spider House.
Spider House is designed to amplify and connect the viewer with the delicate beauty of spiders. It includes a rapid prototype stereolithography plant designed to make a comfortable home for an orbital web spider. Blue LEDs attract insects into the flower area. A video camera is mounted on the interior of the plant forms and focuses up at the web.
I waited a very long time for this spider to eat that fly, and it didn't. But I heard right after I left with the film, it actually came down and ate the fly. Perhaps because she didn't want me to watch her eat it, I'm not really sure. But it is really lovely to be able to watch these beautiful creatures exist. The next piece I'd like to show you is a piece called autopoiesis. Autopoiesis is a notion that comes out of a couple of Chilean biologists, Humberto and Maturana. This idea basically is the idea of self-making. When looking at the notion of a living system, it's Maturana and Varela. They were really asking questions about what a living system is. What does every living system have? And what they realized really was that all living systems in essence are self-making. They get to, in essence, reproduce themselves. So there's a kind of structural coupling to some extent between the living thing and the environment. And this work was really asking those questions about could a sculpture exist and emerge into some kind of complex interaction and allow the sculpture to in essence, show some kind of complex manifestations that were the result of the interaction with human beings. So in essence, humans and the interaction become the environment for this work, autopoiesis. You'll notice from this image that these works are actually made of Cabernet Sauvignon grapevines. And they also sing to each other with telephone tones, which is a musical and a kind of positional language for the work. But I use the grapevines because I'm very interested in this idea of a cellular consciousness. You can see in the frozen form of the grapevine that not only did the vine know which way to the sun, but also realized that there was a branch nearby in wrapping its tendrils around that branch to get higher to the sun. So I thought that was a very good use of materials, and also it was a very soft material that was perhaps more approachable and within the realm of the biological for human beings.
Autopoiesis is an artificial life robotic sculpture series commissioned by the Kiasma Museum in Helsinki, Finland. It consists of 15 musical and robotic sculptures that interact with the public and modify their behaviors based on both the presence of the participants in the exhibition and the communication between each separate sculpture. This series of robotic sculptures talk with each other through a hardwired network and audible telephone tones, which are a musical language for the group. The interactivity engages the viewer participant, who in turn affects the system's evolution and emergence. This creates a system evolution as well as an overall group sculptural aesthetic. Autopoiesis utilizes a number of unique approaches to create this complex and evolving environment. It uses smart sensor organization that senses the presence of the viewer participant and allows the robotic sculpture to respond intelligently. By organizing the sensors in this way, I have minimized the number of sensors while maximizing the ability of the software to cope with this data. For example, at the top of each sculptural element or arm, 4 passive infrared sensors face south, north, east, and west. When 2 sensors are triggered, the program knows that someone is located in, for instance, the southeast corner, and this is the direction the sculpture moves to. 4 sensors allow 8 quadrants of sensing. These passive infrared sensors tell each arm to move in the direction of the viewer, while the active infrared sensor located at the tip stops the arm as it arrives within inches of the viewer. This allows the sculpture to display both attraction and repulsion behaviors. Furthermore, in autopoiesis, the robotic sensors compare their sensor data through a central state controller, so the viewer is able to walk through the sculptural installation and have the arms interact both individually and as a group. Because each arm has its own onboard computer control, the overall speed of reaction is rapid and therefore lifelike. Local control always supersedes group control when a local sensor is aware of a human nearby. At the tip of 2 of the arms, lipstick cameras project what they see onto the walls of the space. This gives the viewer participant a sense of being observed by this artificial life robotic sculpture. The sculptures also communicate using bit strings as information, and they exchange this data serially, interconnecting all sculptures. Each sculpture also generates bit strings of information as algorithms, which affect the overall group behaviors. When, for instance, there are large crowds of people in the installation, the group behaviors tend to be far less vigorous. When there's fewer people and each arm is getting less data, then the overall group behavior is far more vigorous. Additionally, the tones are a musical language that allows individual robotic sculptures to communicate and give the viewer a sense of the emotional state of the sculptural elements as they interact. Higher and more rapid tones are associated with fear, and the lower, more deliberate tonal sequences with relaxation and play. Other tones give the impression of the sculptures whistling to themselves.
I'm going to fast forward through that in the interest of time because we have some other great speakers here. The next work I'd like to show is a work called Stand By Deliver, and I think the video does a very good job of explaining this work, so I'll just let that run.
You get to watch this process where the gum stretches across these forms, which are actually sugar molecule-shaped glass forms. And the sort of beauty of this might be colored by your perceptions, which is that you've just eaten all this sugar, that you might have a different kind of perception because of the sugar that you've had as an intake, and then you participated in the piece. But through your perception and your absorbing of the sugar, watching of the sculpture, that may shape your perception of it. And then after the piece runs for a little while, it gets coated with gum, and it gets put on display over there. And there's gum at the front if anyone wants to participate. Oh, great.
An interesting side note, this piece was actually shut down by the show 2 weeks before the show was over because they said it was a germ vector, which I thought was really quite laughable because, of course, everything is a germ vector, including a doorknob. And I thought that was really funny that somehow their health people came in and said it was dangerous because I guess they'd observed some children putting some gum on the piece. I'm going to fast forward here to the next work. This is a work called Flickering Signifiers. I'll let it play just a little because I think I'm running out of time.
Flickering Signifiers is an ambient light installation concerned with the rhythmic nature of television light and how it is used to seduce and compel the viewer into a kind of hypnotic inaction. Detection of movement has been at the core of our survival, and it creates a behavior which allows easy seduction by flashing movement, where TV uses rapid-fire cuts, frenetic dark light patterning, and sequences of rhythmic complementary colors. They seem to become especially frenetic on 15-minute intervals when commercials are being aired. Five of these sculptures surround and illuminate hundreds of toys and consumer products hanging from the ceiling with knives, forks, and spoons attached, and serve to underline TV watching as fundamentally tied to the consumer consumption and waste cycles.
And I'm going to fast forward to another piece called Mediated Encounters.
Is an interactive robotic installation of 4 fish tanks designed to allow Siamese fighting fish, Beta splendens, to determine the movement of 2 grapevine robotic sculptures. This piece allows normally aggressive fish to interact without killing each other and explore their environment beyond the limits of the fish bowls. The fish determine the direction and the speed of the robotic structures by crossing any of 6 light brake beams connected to the computer, which activate motors that move the tanks in the direction the fish looks to the outside world.
And I'm going to fast forward to show you very quickly a couple of more pieces. How am I doing on time?
Actually, was because I was really trying to think about what the fish wanted. I do believe that the fish enjoys moving the tank around. Well, the way that it works actually is it uses a couple of brake beams, and so when the fish is on this side of the tank, basically what happens is this comparator senses where the fish is, and then it slowly ramps the motor up and allows it to move in this direction.
And this is the last sequence I'll show you here. A couple of works from about 8 and 9 years ago.
I'm thinking of mimicking human function. Greg? Greg? Okay, question for you, Don. Is it live, or is it mimesis? No, it's mimesis. No, mimesis. It's where all this robotic stuff is leading us. It's the science of making mechanisms that mimic organisms. And it's not a new science either. Now, the ancient Greeks were practicing a crude form of it when they made statues of themselves. You can see where it's heading these days. These are two members of the flock, a sort of interactive sculpture created by Mark Grossman and Ken Rinaldo of San Francisco. They see, they speak, they hear, they feel, and they're designed to react spontaneously pretty much any way they want. So in a sense, they can even think.
At the very bottom, we have an infrared eye, which basically is saying, well, what's out there? What's out there? And it's telling the computer brain that something's there.
Let's see if this eye at the end of the hand will respond to me.
Oh, boy.
Ooh, it screamed and ran away.
It broadcasts to the other two arms through this mouth here, and it speaks in telephone terms. Each of the creatures actually has 4 ears, and that allows us to triangulate the sound and figure out the direction of sound.
A little higher. A little higher. Come right to me. This is actually a plate full of tiny worms which are all clumped together down here and projected on the wall up here next to me. If I reach in and stir them around, break them up, they'll immediately start to reclump, which is a sort of primitive flocking behavior. And that was actually the organic inspiration for our mechanical flock.
We were really interested to see, could you create a similar behavior in a bunch of autonomous robots? Could you make them have some kind of group behavior, give them a communication with telephone sounds, and allow them to emerge into some complexity?
Ideally, if you've got like all 3 of them set up and one is sort of panicked by something that I do, the other 2 will kind of, the panic will spread to the other 2.
Well, that indeed could happen.
Like a flock of birds.
Exactly.
You're pushing that boundary between natural and artificial life. Maybe it's a boundary we don't want to push, you know?
What we're seeing in today's society is that human beings really are having to move at the pace of the machine. The machine, as a co-evolving force with us, is forcing us now to move at its pace.
These are some of Rinaldo's cyber squeaks. They're all mewling at me discontentedly because I've got them agitated. Will either drive you nuts or bring out the best of your nurturing instincts. Come here now. That's better. Granted, it's kind of a low-end form of mimesis, but could represent the first real generation of digital wildlife. I don't know, Don. Once we drive all the real stuff into extinction, we may need some of this.
That brings to a close my presentation. Thank you for your time.